Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Monday. It is March 23rd. It is 2026. Put it all together. What do you got? We're just glad to be here at this point. It's been a weird, wild weekend. They're all weird and wild, but of course, adding a war on top of the usual chaos just makes things a little nerve-wracking. Things have been touch and go for quite a while, but luckily we are in the middle of a war, the likes of which we've never seen before. And that means sometimes it's a war, sometimes it's not a war. Sometimes it's on, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we're on the attack, sometimes we're on the defense. Sometimes we're winning, sometimes it never started in the first place. You can't really tell what's going on here, except, I guess, probably if you, I guess you could always make an estimation somewhere in the middle. But generally speaking, whatever Trump tells you is going on is probably wise to take with a gigantic grain of salt. That puts you in the unfortunate position of having to possibly credit the announcements of the government of Iran, and nobody feels super comfortable about that one. But you see, the days of sitting back and taking the word of the government, well, they've been on. Our government has been over for quite a long time, actually. So I think we're probably pretty comfortable with that. It's just, it's a little trying, all of the whiplash, and it's worrisome. And all sorts of chaos happening, and apparently more to come, as the president is backing off of maybe escalating, although we did learn yesterday that we were supposed to. Sometimes you have to escalate in order to de-escalate. That's a new one. That's good, a nice carryover from destroying villages to save it, I suppose. And confusion over how exactly to describe the Strait of Hormuz, which remains closed to the United States and the passage of U.S. flagged ships and U.S. allies. Although as time marches on, more and more U.S. allies are finding it beneficial to cut their own side deals with Iran to get their ships through. And the ranks are growing. Japan apparently concluded its own deal over the weekend as well. But also emerging reports that sometimes the terms of the deal aren't as sweet as they sounded in the first place, and may include the payment of, depending on who you ask, tolls or ransom for transiting the Strait of Hormuz. And I don't know whether that really counts as, making a great deal for your own country. But as we headed into the weekend, we took note of this. And now, at the end of the weekend, it looks like India, Pakistan, Turkey, China, Japan, and also in the negotiating stage, Italy and France getting ready to perhaps cut their own deals, large swaths of NATO. And, if you think about it, with India and China in the deal, and then a couple of others, very populous countries as well, some 45% of the world's population would find that its government says that the Strait of Hormuz is not closed. So it makes for some confusing reporting and some wacky times. And there's plenty else going on elsewhere. And we'll try and get to the bottom of all of it, or at least somewhere down towards the middle on the bottom half of things, if we can't get all the way to the bottom. Greg Dworkin is here to try to round things up. But, maybe in honor of at long last, the retirement of Greg Bovino from the United States government service, and his ICE thugs maybe or maybe not showing up in airports, we can play the Greg Bovino Darth Vader march to start things off today. He's a petite fellow, but we'll use this by way of announcing Greg Dworkin's arrival here, even though he was here before it started. That's the illusion of, I don't know what, podcast, radio / we didn't tell you he was here. It's very magical. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, and thank you, middle school jug band.
Yeah, right. You could do it on kazoos.
Spike Jones did it better, but that's for another day.
All righty.
Hey,
Hey.
we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And maybe
You could put it that way.
we will, but I want to start with some weird parliamentary tricks.
Oh, dear. Okay.
It's Dave Letterman style.
Okay.
Weird parliamentary tricks. So, this morning, I learned something I didn't know.
Okay.
Just about every day I learned something I didn't know. But today I learned something I didn't know, and that is that the House and the Senate have different ways of dealing with gratuitous motions when somebody sitting in the chair who has the gavel doesn't feel like playing along.
Okay.
So we're going to start with the more fun Senate and then move to the House. And for the Senate, I give you one, Senator Kennedy.
Oh.
Who can be a funny guy.
The current.
I have a video.
One of the current senators, Kennedy.
Yeah. I didn't tell you about it, but I put it right
kind.
at the bottom of the little list I send you.
All right.
And it's got sirens so you can find it easy.
We'll see about that. Scroll. Okay, go ahead. Wait a minute. Show me the chat. There we go.
Kennedy is in the middle of discussion about something or other. And I think this is a debate about withholding pay for senators if the government shut down.
All right, sure. Go ahead.
And his motion was blocked. And here's the video.
Okay.
I say that as if David could just play
okay. I saw the sirens and I said, okay, sirens, great. Okay. Oh, I'm supposed to click on the things. Got it.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to the weirdo guy's site, not Trump's, but Elon Musk's. All right.
Yeah, it looks like Barrasso is sitting in the chair as President pro tem.
Okay, let's see. All right, hold on a second here. It's going to swirl around a little bit. Kind of pause it, back it up, turn on the sound. Okay, ready to go. Here we go.
Blindsiding?
Blindside him? What?
Mr. President?
Oh, my goodness. Don't
It's not an appropriate parliamentary inquiry.
What if I made a motion?
That was just natural silence in the video. The chair is just like just about looked into the camera like her. Yeah. What if I made a motion? I don't know. Yeah. What motion?
So Kennedy says, "What if I made a motion that we tell Senator Schatz, then a Democrat?"
All right. You want to recap it or should I? I mean, how long does he sit there?
I don't think the video has the entire.
I don't know. It's like 100. There's a minute 45 here, but.
Oh yeah, we'll play it.
All right.
Let's see what we get.
Why not? What if I made a motion?
What if I made?
This is pretty funny. What if I made a motion? And the chair's like, well, what if you did? Are you gonna? What do you mean? What if I made a motion?
Go ahead.
I don't know. We'll tell
Play
you
the tape. See what he says.
Contact Senator Schatz and tell him I'd like to move to reconsider, but I don't want to blindside him.
There is no such motion.
I just made it up. You're telling me I can't do that under the rules?
This is incredible. This is, by the way, is a great illustration for everybody out there who has difficulty believing. Yeah, they don't know the rules of the Senate. They have assistants who just hand them papers that say this so that you're in compliance with the rules. They could be there 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. Doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes some of it gets in through osmosis, but by the time it does, they're mostly senile, so it doesn't matter. But they very often have no idea what they're doing. I'm going to continue, I guess. This is pretty funny, even if it's
funny,
quite
but
quiet.
You're talking about Barrasso sitting as the president pro tem when you say that?
Yes. Well, I was thinking
he gets handed a little piece of paper, and
yes,
this is what I'm supposed to say.
He does, but even from the floor, usually Kennedy would have somebody with him who says, like, well, what you say is, I move that the Senate do now consider. I move that the Senate do now consider. And they whisper just like everybody else, but certainly
23 XX33I.
It's usually that's one of Elon Musk's kids, by the way. But if you usually you get instructions, and you've seen it on on C-SPAN that the parliamentarian will whisper to the presiding officer what to answer back. But yeah, what if I made a motion? He's just shocked that you can't just. All this time, I just thought everybody was making this garbage up, and it turns out there's rules.
We'll find out. Let's find out what happens when Senator Kennedy finds out more about the rules.
Why not? I don't get it.
Plus, there's a hawk in the Senate.
I could move to reconsider
and blindside him,
but I don't want to do that. So why can't I move to reconsider, subject to us waiting for Brian to get back, so he has a full opportunity to be heard?
Suggest an absence of a quorum and have a quorum call. This is what you would do if you needed a delay.
No such motion.
Look, you don't know what you're doing.
There is. I just made it.
Yeah, no, there isn't.
Look, this is a serious matter.
No, it isn't.
It would take unanimous consent.
This is a serious matter.
He has no idea how to do this.
We've established that this resolution doesn't affect the House. It just says to the senators, while we're in a shutdown, no senator is going to be paid. You don't lose your money.
So what are you doing?
Pick it up after it's over.
Okay, you can stop it there.
I mean, what
but
he's talking about is
Senator Kennedy is trying to tell the chair that he
but
wants to make a motion. I guess he didn't pre-approve it, and he doesn't know how to do it. And the president pro tem, sitting in the chair, who is addressed as Mr. President, says you can't do that.
No.
Now, here's the interesting thing. You said that Senator Kennedy could have asked for reconsideration.
He could do all sorts of things.
But he could also ask in the Senate to overrule the chair.
Yes.
And that's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
That's another thing he could have done. He could have said to his colleagues, none of whom are there.
Yeah, right. That's the problem.
According to the video. It's an empty chamber. He could have said, I want to overrule the chair. I win 1-0.
Yeah. By the way, Barrasso told him what to do. One of the other options, it would take unanimous consent. So ask unanimous consent. He doesn't understand what that means. It would take unanimous consent. Well, okay.
He doesn't really want to do it. He just made it up.
Is.
He's just trying to make a point and get himself on TV and all. But
not this
there is a procedure in the Senate where if you bring something up and you don't like the ruling of the chair, you could ask that the chair be overruled.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to establish.
Big part of the nuclear option.
Right?
Yes.
And so I knew that
but,
back in my head.
Right.
You can always do that. It usually doesn't work, but one can do that. And on occasion it has worked. But in the House, you can't do that. It doesn't work that way. That's what I learned. So our House expert Ringwis tweeted this morning. That was interesting. James Wallner, who's a congressional expert and one of my Twitter friends, says the key to appeal the ruling of the chair. That's how Kennedy turns a made-up motion into a vote. That's one way to do it.
Yeah, all right.
And Ringwis says, indeed, interestingly, though, this doesn't work in the House. And then he's got something which looks like it's from the congressional record, 25 September 2024, and the dialogue goes like this. Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this matter to the Committee on Ethics and that we bring this member up for censure. And the Speaker, pro tem, says, does the gentleman yield back? And apparently this is Steve Horsford. Mr. Horsford says, Mr. Speaker, I made a motion. And the Speaker says, there is no motion pending before the House.
Okay.
Mr. Horsford said, Mr. Speaker, I made a motion based on Rule 23, point of parliamentary inquiry. And the Speaker rules in his statement, the gentleman is not stating, a proper motion at this time.
Okay. I mean, I guess he's not. I don't know. Maybe he is. It doesn't matter, really.
Maybe he is, but it doesn't matter. The Speaker says he's not. Whoever's sitting in the chair with the gavel says he's not.
Right.
So a colleague, a Democratic colleague, Wasserman Schultz, stands up and says, Mr. Speaker, you have made a ruling that the gentleman's motion is not in order, and I object and I disagree. I would like to make a motion to overrule the decision of the chair. Just the same thing we were talking about on the Senate side.
Yeah.
And the Speaker says, the chair advises the gentlewoman and there's no way he knew this. He was handed a piece of paper. Mm-hmm. The chair advises the gentlewoman that there was no valid motion made and therefore no ruling made that can be appealed.
Okay.
So House and Senate don't have the same rules. We know that.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting example of how it works differently.
Mm-hmm.
In the Senate, you can overrule the chair if you can get yourself together and do it. And in the House, they won't let you do that because the Speaker will simply say, what you're trying to do isn't valid. You can't. And so that gives you an idea of the difference between what it means to be in the minority in the Senate versus what it means to be in the minority in the House. You have some tricks and things you can do in the Senate as a minority that simply aren't available to you at the House. You just get shut down.
Yeah,
and that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention. Okay. So whenever you're online or wherever you read, wherever you get your information, and somebody on your side says to you, I don't understand why the Democrats just don't get it together and reopen the government and shut down ICE, even though we don't control the House, the Senate, or the White House. Yeah. And they say, well, you should just do it.
Yeah.
Find a way.
Why don't you just? Right.
Why don't you just? Exactly. There's no way. And people just don't ever seem to internalize this. And it's even worse in the House than it is in the Senate. And that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, it makes a good point. It's always worth reminding everybody. Sometimes even when people do internalize it, then other people are born and become adults, and they've not had a chance to internalize it, but they look the same online. So we're never sure whether they're internalizing it or not. But eventually someone will come along who is not. Yeah, why don't you justism is, the bane of everyone's existence. But we tried for a while an experiment. What if you had a place where you could go and someone would answer that question? And it turns out it didn't make very much difference. And so now I let Ringwist do it.
He's pretty good at it, though.
Yeah. I mean, he really actually enjoys banging his head against the wall and telling people
he's young
stuff.
and singularly focused. And
Right. No, absolutely. When I was younger and had more time on my hands, I tried it for a while. And I think he may sort of be, disposed to doing this possibly for the rest of his life, which is fantastic because, it's kind of trying. But,
it is, but again, so you step back and say to yourself sometimes, well, why don't people just do something about Trump?
Yes. Although you also find out that they say, if you say that, then they say, there's another faction out there that rolls their eyes and say, it doesn't matter. There's no Constitution anymore. Okay. Never mind. I find you both equally frustrating, but I get everyone has a point, but. Yeah.
So, we're involved in this war in Iran, this stupid war.
Yeah.
This war that doesn't make any sense.
Involved.
Whose stated objectives are, shall we say, to be polite, evolving.
Yes.
And they seem to be evolving back to the points that Obama negotiated with Iran back in the day, with the JCPOA. So, Trump is very upset that Iran isn't getting bullied, and over the weekend, he wrote to them, gee, nice country you have. Be ashamed if something happened to it.
Like nothing has ever, the likes of which has never been seen before, of course.
Yeah, thank you for your attention to this matter. And he threatened...
Oh, there's a new one out.
And he threatened Iran with blowing up all of their oil capacity.
Sure, the whole thing.
Which the markets freaked out at, and so did the Gulf. And because Iran said, yeah, well, you do that, we'll just knock out all the desalination plants and let everybody, die of thirst. And we'll also knock out, as we've already started to do, everybody else's oil as well. So, yeah, go ahead. Make my day. And so everybody knew something was going to happen. Trump gave Iran 48 hours starting Saturday night, so that would have been up like 7 o'clock tonight, to open up the Straits, STRAIGHT, the Straits of Hormuz.
The straight ones.
Or else.
Yeah.
So this morning, just before the markets open, Trump tweets, I am pleased, Please, I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran, you have to appreciate this is all in capital letters, have had over the last 2 days very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East based on the tenor and tone Of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which, W-I-T-C-H, which will continue throughout the week,
hunt.
I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So, in other words, I have suggested that in this week's market manipulation, we'll hold off on war until the markets close on Friday.
You're right. That's 5 days.
So, and that's because the market's freaked out over his too bad something happens to it, country kind of tweet. So, basically, the Tehran taco.
Yay. Which, don't talk him out of it. It's
This was a
fine.
good taco.
Yeah.
So we're sort of happy he did this. And one of our analysts, the one we did last week that talked about fertilizer and helium coming through the strait, not just oil, and how important they are and how farmers are going to get screwed because fertilizer prices are off the charts, and so they're going to switch from corn to soybean, and that's going to ripple down to food chains and other things, including, the price it takes to farm, which is why farm closures are going to go up and so on and so forth, the whole chain of things. Very good analyst. Today he writes, Shanaka Anselm Pereira, who, if I'm not mistaken, is writing from Australia.
No.
I can't remember that one, though. I have to go look that up.
Is it upside down?
He writes, breaking, 36 hours ago, President Donald Trump said obliterate. This morning he said productive conversation.
Oh, my goodness, yes. Right.
Now, Iran denies any of this is happening. This morning he said productive conversation. The question every trader, diplomat, and general is asking, what broke between Saturday night and Monday morning?
Trump's brain.
So 6 things broke simultaneously. None of them were Iranian.
All right.
First, the bill arrived. The Pentagon requested $200 billion in supplemental funding. That was just a few days ago.
Yeah.
The war cost $11 billion in 6 days, $16 billion in 12. As $1.3 billion per day and accelerating, congressional resistance to the supplemental is real. The money that was supposed to fund days, not weeks, now needs a vote that may not pass.
Right.
That's one thing. Second, the Fed killed the rate cut thesis. On March 18th, the Federal Reserve held rates at 3.5 to 3.75 and revised its 2026 core inflation forecast to 2.7 from 2.4, citing the war. The dot plot shows one cut in all of 2026, down from 2. Every point basis of delayed easing is pain for housing, credit, and the Magnificent 7. Stops.
Magnificent. Oh, all right.
The war that was supposed to demonstrate strength is demonstrating inflation.
Okay.
Third, the economies revolted politely. The Allies revolted politely as well.
I see.
22 countries signed up to coordinate on Hormuz. 0 committed to warship.
Yeah.
Japan is releasing strategic reserves. South Korea's market has fallen 12%. Europe's gas surged 35% after Qatar's LNG was knocked offline and declared force majeure up to 5 years. That means the country says, based on some act of nature and or war, we can't fulfill our contracts. We're off the hook.
For 5
Can't
years.
sue us for that.
All right. Well, they got kings.
That's a layman's understanding for all the lawyers who actually understand what force majeure is, or who actually speak French. Right, David? Complain.
Sure.
Trump called NATO cowards and got a press release. That's how the show works. If I say something wrong, complain to David.
Yep.
The coalition of the willing is a coalition of the waiting.
Ooh, wow.
As far as the allies go. Fourth. So Taiwan imports nearly 97% of its energy. Its liquid natural gas reserves cover 11 days. Qatar supplies a third of global helium, which
How do we know this?
The world needs for chip fabrication.
Yes. Oh, right.
The helium is
not for
bottled behind a
inhaling
closed
and
strait.
Okay.
Every NVIDIA GPU, every Apple chip, every AI cluster depends on somebody counting its gas in single-digit days. The Magnificent 7 have shed hundreds of billions as energy rotation crushes tech.
Okay.
So that's what's happening on the market. Fifth thing that happened, Byrol named the damage. The IEA chief told Australia this morning that 40 energy assets across 9 countries are severely damaged. Global oil supply has fallen 11 million barrels a day. The crisis exceeds both 70s shock combined, and no country is immune. He named fertilizer and helium as interrupted flow. The man who runs global energy security called the war Trump started the worst energy crisis in modern history.
Dope.
And sixth, the midterms. Gas prices are up 93 cents per gallon. 66% of Americans call this a word choice. I have more on that polling after the break.
All right.
60% disapprove. 57% say it's going badly. The numbers that matter in Washington are not barrels a day. They're approval ratings in swing states where voters fill their tanks every Tuesday.
I guess so. That's what they say.
6
That's what Chuck Todd will tell you.
Well, some of these Midwest states have gas cycling, where prices repeatedly go up and down for reasons which I don't fully understand, but they do.
Okay.
So the tanks every Tuesday may be a thing. Somebody can explain it. I can't. Or maybe I'll explain it Thursday after I come back.
Right.
So there were 6 pressures, 1 post. President Trump didn't discover diplomacy, he discovered arithmetic. The 48-hour ultimatum was a threat. The 5-day pause is a confession. Destroying power plants would have sealed the strait permanently, triggered Iran's promise to irreversibly destroy Gulf desalination and energy infrastructure, crashed the supply chain, spiked inflation, and headed the midterms to $7 a gallon gas. So the pause is real, the relief is not, the strait is closed, the assets are damaged, the fertilizer's still blocked, the planting window's still closing, the 5-day clock is ticking, and the molecules don't negotiate. So that's his setup of what's going on here.
Hi, I'm Scott Anderson, the guy that writes the daily summary for this show, Kagro in the Morning. Thank you to everyone that supports this show. Many of you send donations through PayPal, Patreon, Square Cash, Radio Public, and so on. Some of you write your own essays and send them in, or read articles with your own commentary. We appreciate it. Now, some of you are listening to this and thinking, I'd like to help, but isn't there something I could do that wouldn't require money or effort? Why, yes, there is. You can just like us. On Daily Kos, they call it the recommend button. YouTube has a thumbs up. There are hearts and likes and love buttons. Tap our love button. Tap our love button every day. Share our shows and summaries on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube and iTunes, Stitcher and Amazon. Most of these places allow you to write a review, so a sentence or 2 would be great. Recommend us to social media, or tell your friends to listen to the show. You aren't just helping us, you're helping them find their new favorite thing to listen to. You could change the world. So thank you in advance from me and everybody else in the world.
All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. The strategic helium reserve has run out, but don't worry. We can always get more. But it's very strategic. We should just do that and then flaunt it in the face of the world. Like sure, why not? I guess you pass out eventually. If you just substitute all of your oxygen for helium. Well, I guess it's not all
you have to do.
Oxygen.
No. What you have to do is you have to make a helium oxygen mixture of 80-20. And that's what you do, and then you can do it a little longer. If you do it 100% helium, you are in trouble.
Yeah,
but
I guess
if you do 80-20, then you can live on that a little bit.
That sounds fine. Do you also lose weight if you breathe in enough helium, or no?
Well, if you keep your mask on so that you can breathe in the helium, you can't eat, and therefore you lose weight. Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. So it's.
But also, if you ever saw Mary Poppins, you also start floating in the air.
Oh. Okay. Well, you can do that with fizzy lifting drink. I've seen it in Willy Wonka as well. So, All right. Look, the world's supply. By the way, almost 80% of the world's fizzy lifting drink comes from the Persian Gulf as well. So we're really in trouble.
Oh, does it come with baklava?
These days it does. Happy Eid, everyone. Yeah. It's a scene out there, to be sure. I guess I'm glad for the tacoing as long as it may last. You really can't tell, and I don't want to say taco too much because it tends to get back to him, and now he gets mad and then he'll undo it. But I did see somebody distill his Friday, I think, on the plane press gaggle down to the the bare minimum of how many times he reversed himself, that in the course of the half hour that he spoke to the press, who is this? Warren Wells had this on Blooski, policy and planning director for marinbike.org and UCLA urban planning type person. But it goes on at some length, but we can get through it. Friday's press gaggle, he boils down to this. This is barely exaggerated, he says, but it's time-stamped. He's time-stamped, and he's distilled his comments down to their bare essence to make the point. At 12:03 p.m., President Trump told reporters he wanted a ceasefire with Iran. At 12:05, he declared victory. At 12:07, he announced he was sending the Marines. At 12:08, he said no boots on the ground. The Marines are going to inhale the strategic helium, I guess, and a float just barely over. No boot actually touches the ground. 12:07, sending the Marines. 12:08, no boots on the ground. 12:11, he said he did not want a ceasefire. At 12:16, he declared victory again. At 12:17, he asked for a ceasefire. You remember that one? He didn't want it. At 12:23, he told NATO they were cowards. At 12:29, he said Iran was begging for a ceasefire. At 12:31, he said everything was perfect. 12:36, he said $500 oil, $500 a barrel, was actually a good thing. I don't know how that happened. At 12:37, he demanded Iran open Hormuz. At 12:39, he said Hormuz was never closed. At 12:41, he said the U.S. was not at war with Iran. And finally, at 12:42, he declared victory in Iran. So that's in the course of half an hour. So is he tacoing? Is he not tacoing? Is he just simply having a burrito? No one can tell.
Right. Oh, but by the way, I got another video for you.
Uh-oh, all right, I'll look for that.
It's at the bottom, and we need to start it at 3 minutes and 44 seconds. But to give you time to do that, I want to give you the results of some CVS polling.
Okay.
That not CVS.
Yeah, it's like
pharmacy. CVS,
most people want
the
NyQuil,
the news station, what used to be a news station. They had polling over the weekend. Trump's job approval ratings, and here it is overall. Trump approved 40, disapproved 60. That's pretty low for them.
Yeah. Immigration
45-55, approve, disapprove. And we're going to play an immigration thing in that video. That's
okay. I want to get to that.
Iran
344. Okay.
Yeah. Iran 38-62.
Okay.
The economy 36-64. The inflation situation, approve 33, disapprove 67. So Andrew Egger from the Bulwark notes, if you want to understand just how cooked Trump is.
Whoops, hold on a moment. I didn't realize I couldn't just put the cursor there, but without it talking. Please start again.
If you want to understand just how cooked Trump is, just think about everything that's happened with Iran in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Even in the last couple of minutes, as you read.
Right.
And then realize he's still doing better on Iran than he is on the economy.
Yeah, I guess
38-62 in Iran, and the economy and inflation is doing even worse. Inflation 33-67. He's doing 27% or so with independents in the YouGov poll. He's just polling awfully. If these numbers stick, this is going to be a complete wipeout in November.
Awesome.
And here's a piece from The Argument. That's a blog.
No, it isn't.
Americans with trade jobs for cheaper eggs. Trump is losing the only thing that ever saved him, writes Lakshaya Jain. What do you get when you cross a cost of living crisis with an unpopular war and tariff policies from the 30s? The answer is disaster.
Yeah.
The public opinion landscape and the economy resembles an apocalyptic wasteland for the Republican Party, driven by immense economic dissatisfaction from a public crying out for lower costs. And by the way, nothing Trump has done in the Gulf is going to change costs at all. It doesn't matter what the market does. The market will go down because they love what he said about no war. And then as supplies continue to be choked off and all of those energy sites continue to be damaged, despite what Trump says with his words, spelled correctly or not, the market will drift back up over the course of the week. That's what's going to happen. Trump's approval ratings are plumbing all-time lows in our latest survey of national registered voters at The Argument, which is 40% of respondents approving, similar to the CBS poll, and 58% disapproving. In our March survey, Trump's net approval rating is the worst we've ever seen for him in any of our polls. I'll go a step further. Trump isn't just the most unpopular he's ever been in this current presidential term.
Yeah.
He's more unpopular than any prior president has been at the equivalent point in time, including Trump in his first term.
Well, all right. That's
going back to Jimmy Carter.
Bad.
I don't see Nixon on this list, so that was my first question.
I guess
really
they
worse than
doing
Nixon?
that?
Well, I have to go back and look. Yeah, I got to remember the timing of Nixon because I think it was later in his term that he started to collapse. To quote a prominent Democratic strategist, it's the economy, stupid. Trump's numbers in the economy are radioactive. Every major demographic group of voters disapproves of his stewardship, including supermajorities of young, non-white voters. He's underwater on this issue with white, non-college voters.
Oh, my.
A group he won in 2024 by more than 20 percentage points. So that's what's going on in terms of his war and the economy, and that's important because they all blend together.
Yes.
Danny Citrinowicz, who is an Israeli analyst, a very good one, looks and says, nothing fundamental has changed. He's posting this morning. Nothing fundamental has changed. Israel continues striking in Iran. The U.S. is likely involved with the strikes. Iran continues its own attacks. What also hasn't changed is Iran hasn't backed down, and the strait is closed. What has changed is Trump's apparent recognition of the limits of force. Trump now faces a stark choice: escalate with significant force to reopen the strait, a move that could widen the conflict, or move toward a deal that requires concessions, even if framed domestically as a win, which of course it wouldn't be. That's where things stand. The real test of Trump's flexibility is still ahead, and this episode may have underscored, perhaps for the first time for him, that Iran is not Venezuela. It's not. It's more like Trump's Ukraine than it is Venezuela. But, that's another story for another day. So I want to get back to the airports. The airports are showing chaos.
They're taking over the airports.
Because the screeners are not getting paid, and so they're walking off the job. And so lines are incredibly long, 4-hour waits to get into the airport, to get to your plane. In some cases, places. 1 out of 4 checkpoints is open. Trump threatens to send ice
cubes
to the airports to substitute for TSA, which they can't. They're not trained to do that. So hopefully they'll do all the menial work so that TSA can do the checkpoints.
What menial?
And whether or not they're going to be masked and all this other stuff. They didn't know about it. Trump just said this on Sunday night and caught them completely by surprise. Here it is Monday, and they're supposed to show up and do things.
Right.
And, of course, everybody hates ICE.
Yes.
And so the Democrats are not intimidated by this at all. Here is the reaction. Rachel Bade, a Republican whisperer, who used to work at Punchbowl, I think, or Politico, can't tell the difference.
Oh.
Anyway, she used to be Politico Playbook. That's where I know her from. Knew if Trump thought dispatching ICE agents to airports would force Democrats to blink in the never-ending DHS shutdown standoff, he's in for a rude awakening. I checked with a bunch of Democratic lawmakers and top staffers yesterday. This was this morning, so this is truly yesterday. And here are 3 quotes. One senior Democratic official said to me, "Great, do it. Let's fuck around and find out."
All right.
Another predicted the optics would be disastrous for Trump. Armed agents at airports will crush tourism and freak people out. And a third couldn't resist. Can they please show up in masks?
Yeah, I was wondering what they were going to do with their masks, these guys.
Right. So just to underscore, this morning, Rachel Bade wrote, there are 0 signs that lawmakers will find a way out of this DHS standoff before spring break. Quite the contrary. As I report, Dems feel emboldened. They're at the cusp of victory in a GOP cave. As Punchbowl reports this morning, Trump is rejecting Senator Thune's proposal for a fund all but ICE workaround. I'll read that to you.
Oh.
Trump, meanwhile, is also insisting he won't sign a DHS bill unless it includes the Save America Act, which
that's what he said.
I would add can't pass.
Yeah.
So therefore,
what can I tell
he owns the airport gas.
Yes.
It'll put pressure on Democrats. No, you just admitted you owned it. So Senate Majority Leader John Thune spoke to President Donald Trump Sunday and offered to fund DHS without ICE, which is the Democratic proposal, which is also Senator John Kennedy's proposal.
Oh.
Kennedy is like in the middle of a lot of this stuff.
Well,
Thune
he doesn't
said
know it,
he'd
though.
fund ICE in a reconciliation package. Trump rejected the offer, said he wants Republicans fighting Democrats over DHS funding and the SAFE Act. He doesn't really care if the SAFE Act passes. He just wants people to fight over it. He thinks it's good for him.
That's probably true. I mean, that he thinks that.
With his base, because he doesn't govern for anybody else. some Senate Republicans and White House are beginning to diverge as DHS shutdown nears 40 days. So in other words, it is the Republicans who are close to caving.
Oh, all right.
And I'm enjoying this because I'm seeing all the usual suspects online. What is Democrats doing? Why don't they just? Because they always cave. And they're not caving. It's Republicans that are caving. And a couple of them are saying, you see, I told you what would happen. Republicans are caving. You know, and so it's kind of amusing.
The good news is that they're not even giving us time to cave. We could. I mean, anything could happen. But they keep changing the position to dumber and dumber ones, and more Democrats are able to, off the cuff say, I'm not doing that. I'm not accepting that. It's ridiculous.
So in that poll from Laksha Jain from The Argument, D+7 generic ballot, -18 Trump approval, worst poll for Republicans yet. A big reason 2026 might be worse for the GOP than 2018. The economy's worse, and people are far angrier about that now than they were then.
True. I want to,
and keep in mind, D+7 is registered voters. Doesn't account for likely voters, or those who would definitely vote, or those who are definitely pissed. If you look at them, it's D+9. 2018 was D+7.
All signs pointing to real huge electoral problems, if not a total wipeout for Republicans. I happened to see something this morning that Aaron Rupar grabbed for different purposes. It was actually a screenshot of Chip Roy talking to Maria Bartiromo, which he thought was humorous because Chip Roy is on there he's wearing a fleece vest, by the way. I don't know whether that's an attempt to co-opt the winning national brand, right? The winning national brand of the guy who nobody can remember his name anymore. But it was a red fleece vest. This is a gray fleece vest. It's not working. But Chip Roy, I guess it's maybe campaign swag, so it has his name on it, but it doesn't say, re-elect Chip Roy or Chip Roy for Congress. It just says Chip Roy with a little logo. So Aaron saying Chip Roy is wearing a name tag again on Fox this morning. But what was interesting to me was the chyron on screen. It may or may not have been what they were talking about at the time. But down at the bottom here, it says GOP, them, that party in Congress. GOP eyes $200 billion Pentagon request. We know we've heard about that. To jumpstart Reconciliation 2.0. So now the plan is, not only did they say last week it's going to be, they want $50 billion. No, I mean $200 billion, which, by the way, no one offered any sort of explanation whatsoever about how that price quadrupled. They just pretended it was always 200. And it's in danger of not passing because nobody likes the war, and there's a MAGA revolt even about the war as well. So now they're saying, what I just wanted to note for the record, they're floating the idea of, well, since we can't pass it like normally, we'll do it in a reconciliation bill. So now everything that Trump can't get passed, they're like, well, we'll just do it in reconciliation, which is how they got their first, one big / two big beautiful bidet bills thing passed. So he figures he can do it anytime he wants with anything he wants. I just wanted to throw out there, I don't think I've ever seen a reconciliation bill for ongoing military war operations. Like, one of the things you usually get when it comes to war, because we usually conduct war this way, is some bipartisan agreement because it's war and you don't do it this way. I've never seen this. So in combination, an underwater in the polls, razor thin majority heading into midterms with the same party president in office, also at historic lows. Yeah. Also at historic lows himself. And now looking to fund a war with a reconciliation bill so that it's done on a party line vote, so that there's literally a war, very unpopular, no one else to blame for it, no sharing of responsibility, no, there was bipartisan agreement, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I've never heard of such a plan about how to fund a war because it's insane, but to lump that on top of you're in the worst position ever for your party. And by the way, and it looks like at least here in Virginia, Democrats will be hopefully doing their redistricting as well. So, I mean, really just everything going the wrong way, and then saying we're going to take sole responsibility for a war and burn $200 billion in front of everybody right as we head into the elections. But I guess he's confident in doing so because he also thinks that he'll be able to sign a voter suppression bill on top of it.
I have no idea whether or not this has any chance of actually happening, but it is likely that Thune can use that as a way to persuade Trump to let me do it my way because Trump has no idea about procedure.
Yeah, maybe, I guess. But then sometimes I wonder because, as you see, Senator Kennedy also has no idea about procedure, and it's entirely possible that Senator Thune may not either, but he has somebody on staff that does.
Yeah, well, look,
that may be
you can propose something and have it not pass.
That is true.
This is because it's the military and it's about money. I don't know whether it passes the Byrd rule. I suppose it does because it's about money, but it depends who has the chair and what the gavel says and all that sort of stuff. But, even getting that far, again, the whole point of that is Thune understands that Republicans are losing on this issue. And he's now starting to worry about losing the Senate, so he's starting to be conciliatory.
Yeah, and my guess is, I don't know. If the parliamentarian does real work on this thing, it's just reconciliation is just never really supposed to have been used for this sort of expenditure in general. There's supposed to be some offsets, and there needs to be balance. So what are we reconciling?
I'm not even sure you can, but that's okay. They'll do what they want. They have the gavel.
If they insist on offsets too, talk about a political nightmare. You're talking about the Republicans bringing a bill to the floor that says
before the midterms.
Yeah, and then
you know how expensive healthcare is. Let's cut it even more.
Yeah, that's essentially it. That's what their offsets will end up having to be. We want to cut benefits to everyone and demolish health care again
for Trump's war that you didn't want.
Yeah.
So
and didn't do it by with zero support from the other party. A war imposed on the country by one party about a week and a half before you're asked to go vote.
Right.
Oh, man. Okay.
Okay, if that's what you want, good.
Yeah.
Okay, bring it on.
I guess so.
Proceed, Senator.
Yeah, and if ICE is at the airports, then they can't be at the polls.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If ICE is at the airports, they're not on the streets, so, there's that. So here's the pundit roundup. I was trying to help Trump try to sell this war to people, and I advised him what you should do is sell the public on it. If you circle back and monetize your paradigms, then you can convince them because what does that mean? It means help me corporate speak, you're my only hope, because none of what you're doing makes any sense, so why don't you try that? You haven't tried that yet.
I get it now.
Anyway, I led off with a piece from Cato.
Kalen?
Cato. Remember Cato?
Yeah, the guy who
libertarian think tank.
Sneak up on.
Not the guy, not Bruce Lee, not the guy on TV.
Clouseau. All right.
Cato, C-A-T-O.
The original Cato.
A strategic failure in Iran, and they talk about the fact that you can inflict major damage, but among the many contradicting rationales floated by Washington to justify the attack, two have been most prominent. Eliminating Iran's nuclear program hasn't happened. Effecting regime change in Tehran hasn't happened. Washington has achieved neither of these objectives, and it's not in a position to do so. So even Cato is seeing it.
Kill him,
Cato.
As I
brought up Cato and realized that, as Blake Allen writes, Trump reassigning ICE to work as TSA agents shows Democrats are winning the DHS shutdown battle right now. And the administration thinks travel headaches are being blamed on them, not congressional Democrats. So the optics of ICE operating as TSA won't be good, but he has to do something. That's why this is happening. And as I was putting this together, I am reminded of a hearing that I watched on, dare I say it, yes, C-SPAN. I was probably one of their two viewers.
All right.
And Cato has a really interesting immigration expert named David J. Beer, B-I-E-R.
German.
He's really good. He knows his stuff. He is not anti-immigrant. In fact, he often makes the case of why immigration is good for America.
Okay, what an easy case.
So, as an immigration expert, he is invited to testify at a congressional hearing. His questioner is, wait for it, Senator Kennedy from Louisiana.
I don't know if I have a question or not. I just made it up.
And this is just a really intriguing and interesting exchange, which Kennedy is trying to defend administration thinking and having a hard time. He's trying to intimidate the witness, and he fails because Beer knows his stuff. And I wanted to play this because this gives you an idea of what's really happening at the airports with the ICE and everything else.
Okay, and Beer is from Cato?
Yeah.
All right, what is he trying
He's
to intimidate
their,
Cato
senior leader
for?
on immigration.
They used to be aligned. Stuff. Okay, let's see. Kennedy, sometimes. All right, let's roll it.
What statement did I make?
There's Beer. What false statement did I make?
Yeah,
okay.
Can you go back just a little bit?
Yeah,
then,
I got a 344. Let me go back to just, okay, here we go. I think this, so Kennedy must accuse him of making a false statement at some point. Let's see if I can.
Think your hyperbolic statements undermine your credibility?
What hyperbolic statement did I make?
Hyperbolic. Objection, you can't ask me questions. I think.
On February the 11th, 2026.
He's trying to intimidate him. Watch.
You posted on Blooski.
All right.
See, my job is to make David laugh, and I knew if I played Kennedy, I'll make him laugh.
Oh, come on, Blooski. All right.
Are your words, not mine.
Well, sure.
The Democrats' video telling service members to ignore illegal orders didn't go far enough. They should have also urged them to refuse unethical orders, whether illegal or not. There are many things deemed legal that are still obviously unethical, and everyone should hold themselves to this higher law.
Okay.
End quote. Did I read that correctly?
No,
I believe you did. Do you disagree with it? You think?
Oh, you mean by substance? You pronounced Blooski wrong. All right.
Think people should do unethical things in their capacity?
On December the 31st of 2025.
Right, so he tries to ignore the question, just go past that.
Posted to.
That was dumb.
But wait.
That didn't work the way I wanted it to.
I'm sorry.
Answered, sir. Sure. In front of God and country. You said, quote,
in front of God
they,
and country. Wow.
referring to Republicans, think they can troll their way into us accepting ethnic cleansing. End quote. Your words, not mine. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah.
That was in regard to a Department of Homeland Security post about advocating 100 million deportations. That is what DHS has tweeted from their own account. 100 million deportations
hurts,
would be ethnic cleansing.
You
would be removing 1/3 of the country. So, yes, there are people within the Department of Homeland Security.
And you don't think this is hyperbolic? Give me 30 more seconds.
I think advocating 100 million deportations is
I'm having fun here,
ethnic
Mr. Chairman.
cleansing.
On February 5th, you quoted you said the following on Blooski.
Your time's up.
These are all good, but there's no enforcement mechanism. I'm sorry. Let me try a better one. On March 2nd, you said, quote,
he's trying to intimidate him, and he says, this doesn't work. This is just like fact.
Population purge agenda. No hyperbole there. The nativists will name you, threaten you, and come after you. These judges are much braver than the ICE agents who hide behind masks while violating the Constitution.
They are much braver. They put their names on their rulings, and they stand behind their constitutional rulings. When I talk about population purge, I'm talking about the fact that they're trying to deport U.S.-born citizens, people born here. They are trying to deport them as well. So it's not a mass deportation agenda. It is also an agenda intended to reduce the population of the United States, including U.S.-born people. So these are not hyperbolic statements. I appreciate you reading my account. I appreciate
Here's the good news.
What planet did you just... Wait a minute, Mr. Chairman.
Lindsey
What
Graham
planet
now.
did you just parachute in from?
No. Hey, guys.
Anyway, that's you get the gist. David Beard knows his stuff. He is absolutely unintimidated by Kennedy.
Nice.
And, so when I quote Cato, you might think to yourself, well, that's a libertarian right. Actually, they're very good on this topic. They're very good on this topic.
Well, that's nice to...
There's not a single thing that Beard said that you would object to.
No. And, that's... I get what Kennedy's point is. I disagree with you, so I think you're being hyperbolic. And Beard says, I really don't think I'm being hyperbolic. That's the heart of the difference.
Here are the facts. We're talking about 100 million people.
What we're supposed to do with that. Yeah. At some point, it might have been interesting for Beer to say, so if I granted you your point that I make hyperbolic statements, your original question was, do I think that my hyperbolic statements undermine my credibility? My answer is no. Now what are we going to do? Is there anything else you have in your 5 minutes?
Well, that's the thing. And Beer said, not only are you wrong, Senator, but you're out of time.
Yeah. So he did remind me. You're actually out of time. He keeps asking for 30 more seconds. And then actually, this one proves the other guy's point. Let me start over with another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow.
So it's okay to quote Cato on this. Sometimes you step back and say, I don't understand how conservatives can go with this, or I don't understand how libertarian can put up with this. Actually, some of them don't.
Yeah. Well, we saw Rand Paul take his turn
right.
the other day. He lost.
So,
but,
look, Rand Paul is no hometown hero to me.
No.
Neither's Cato. But
no.
On this topic,
no,
they get it right.
Yes. Yeah, that time the yes actually worked. Yeah. Look, great. It's fantastic. I think it's wonderful that they show them. Lindsey Graham had himself a weekend, too, on the talk shows. What did he say? Oh, we can take Carg-Island because once we took Iwo Jima.
It's just like Iwo Jima, like that. That was painless.
Yeah. Wow.
6,000 dead,
another 8,000 injured,
or something along those lines. If I get those numbers wrong, I'm accused of being hyperbolic. But
yeah, you said magazine. Sure. And right. So, I mean, all right. Everybody is out having themselves a fine old time. And nothing better for the midterm elections upcoming than Lindsey Graham casually threatening an Iwo Jima.
Elections coming up. Republicans are losing on both these issues. Iran
Good. Fantastic.
And the shutdown. They are losing on these issues.
Yeah.
They know it. And they are acting accordingly.
It will be exciting to find out whether people are relieved in these 4 and 5 hour security lines to be pestered now by ICE weirdos and perverts who have come over to take over. We'll be frisking all the spring breakers. It's going to be fantastic. A recipe for electoral success. All right, Greg. See you next Wednesday. That's all we can say. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Thanks for following us on Blooski. I guess I could see that on the fly if you have no idea what it is, Blooski. But, I mean, take a second. Blue and sky. It actually kind of works. Like it's not odd combination, but okay, Blooski. Can he pronounce X, Twitter's new name, or not? I don't know. Do you think it's Roman numeral 10? Does he have a difficulty pronouncing that in any way, shape, or form? I could not tell you. All right. Time to check in on other things I've been storing for discussion. But I really am kind of amazed at they're just literally stomping on every possible rake in their way up to the midterm. So I'm getting excited about this. So if the election were held today, I'd be very excited about it, and I would probably also already have voted. I did make my way to the elections office to cast my vote in the redistricting question. I imagine it'll be a somewhat close vote, but definitely if you're in Virginia, I encourage you to get out there and cast that ballot and do so early. In this case, I don't think that I don't anticipate any problem at the polls on election day. Most of the voting is probably going to be done early, but you should bank it and get it done now. And I do have reason to believe it might be a closer vote than you'd want, but I guess it's existential for Virginia Republicans, but good. It should be. And they're complaining bitterly about it too and accusing Democrats of all kinds of shenanigans. But I have seen some very interesting posts on the Virginia political blogs and newsletters, pretty much rounding up the rather shameful history with gerrymandering by Republicans in Virginia, although they tended to confine their gerrymandering to the state legislature, the state General Assembly, rather than the congressional districts. But now that it's moved to the congressional districts and, they're proposing a 10-1 redistricting, which is, it can be done. And I'm sure disheartening for Republicans, but it's been really interesting to see them accusing Democrats of this wild unfairness when the record of Republicans in redistricting in the state legislature is extreme and shameful. They've done as much, if not more, over the years. I would compare them to the work that's the redistricting work that's been done in Wisconsin over the years, that just giving themselves in a situation where they've won some 52% of the vote or so, or even in cases where the Democrats have won statewide by about 52%, electing Mark Warner as governor. The Republican legislature nonetheless tried to hand themselves like a 60-40 split in the legislature, and even redistricted even more aggressively than that. They didn't win all of the seats they tried to redistrict for themselves, but they handed themselves tremendous majorities when it should have been based on the statewide gubernatorial vote, if not an even split, then possibly even an advantage for Democrats. But now that it's being done to them, it's, a manifest injustice. So, nobody remembers any of that. So you're able to stand out there on the street corner and say, this is unfair, and to show the map and say, this is what Democrats say is a fair map. This is what voting looked like in some tremendously favorable election for Republicans, showing one of those red-blue maps by counties, except not by population. And this is what they think is a fair map. Don't you see? There's very different colors on this map, so therefore it's unfair. That's a lot easier to do, though, in 30 seconds or in a sign or in a print ad than recounting the Republican history in the state legislature with redistricting, but happens to be true. All right. There's lots of other fun things out here. Let's see. What else have we got? I should peek through not only my Insta paper, but also my email alerts. And there's definitely a bunch of things that I didn't put things away on, like yesterday's news. Just, I guess, since we were briefly on the topic of airports with the TSA ICE fiasco and the long lines, etc., you likely will have heard by now a bizarre crash at LaGuardia Airport, in which a fire truck crossing one of the runways that an incoming flight was using to land. And, they'll be working on this one at the transportation, what's the National Transportation Safety Board for years, I guess. So I think the control tower audio was out. The one thing about control tower people and air traffic controllers I could never get over is in the middle of, anything, whatever emergency, planes are exploding in front of them. Not in this case, thank God. But, the most dire emergency with hundreds of lives on the line, and they never, this is the training. They just don't evidence any kind of panic, which is amazing. And they can't, you can't afford it. I'm sure they train that right out of them. Listen, the pilots and people listening need clarity and instruction and information, not emotion. Even though sometimes you're like, I guess if you really put it, if you were like, God damn it, turn left, they might, react differently. But, you don't want that. You want to just not panic anybody, I guess. But listening to them, you can, I guess when you hear the recording, there is some emphasis there, and they're trying to direct truck traffic on the ground and incoming aircraft traffic, and the pitch does go up. You do definitely hear some stress in the air traffic controller's voice there, but it is amazing how they keep their composure no matter what's going on. So, yeah, an incoming jet collides with a fire truck rolling across the runway, which is just unbelievable. We don't know how those kinds of wires got crossed. Thankfully, I guess the physics of something like this, while devastating up front in the plane. And I mean, the pictures of the plane, the front end of the plane is just totally destroyed. The cockpit is mangled. The pilots are dead. I don't know what happened to the fire truck. But in the movies, that's the sort of thing like, I don't know, somehow, even though the plane is mostly empty of fuel and the tanks are in the back. And of course, in the movies, it would have been a tanker truck rather than a fire truck. And enormous fireball, and everybody is consumed in it. But thankfully, that didn't happen. But wow, you just think it would be a total mess. Why the plane? I would have thought the plane would have like flipped over or something, but because it was still landing, and so it was still coming at a tremendous rate of speed down the runway. What the truck is doing there? What the truck are you doing here? Apparently, they were being dispatched to another flight that was on hold because someone smelled smoke on board, and so they were doing the right thing, send the fire truck. But that means you got to drive it across the runways, and I don't know how that wire got crossed. And it sounds like he's telling somebody to stop, the tower is, and I guess nobody could tell whether they were telling the taxiing planes in the area to stop or the fire truck to stop. I don't know. It's going to be difficult to explain, and Sean Duffy is not going to be able to do it. So it's bizarre, but thankfully, I think casualties are minimal for what could have been a huge disaster. But really, I mean, air traffic control has got a lot to answer for, and hopefully the blame doesn't, come to rest with them, because they seem to be doing an admirable job in all of this, and they're being handed an impossible situation at an operational level. I don't know who's to blame for that. It's very difficult to believe that anybody's listening to Sean Duffy while they're flying around, but it may come to that. All right. Other stories. For some reason, Instapaper wasn't open and ready to go. But yeah, maybe if I'm going to have to reload it. It's stuck on last week's settings here, but any number of interesting stories to bring to your attention. A couple of them here that I have to open up because they're on Blooski. Now we can always entertain ourselves that way. Yes. I had mentioned the split among the MAGA troops about Iran, which is amazing because also, by the way, entering into the weekend, we had this enormously irresponsible thing that Harry Enton had done. That in going over his polling, I don't know where he got, I don't know who conducted this poll, I don't know why they conducted this poll, I don't know why someone like Harry Enton, seeing such a poll, would even mention such a poll. But apparently they asked a question, and I think it was about support for the war. At least that's the way that Trump used it on Friday during his gaggle. He told people, we're doing very well in the war. And by the way, some of the polls, they ask people if they support the war. And some of it, it's unbelievable. People say that I get 100% support for the war. So, and on he goes with, I'm just going to do things my way. For one thing, it turns out that, Harry Enton, he presents it accurately. It's just a question of why are you presenting this? Let's see if we can't figure this one out and show you a screen grab of it if you didn't catch it. But he is, in fact, showing we asked MAGA, self-described MAGA enthusiasts, whether they still support Donald Trump. I don't think it was even directly about the war now that I think about it. How do you feel about it? Do you support President Trump? Well, among President Trump's supporters, yeah, you're normally going to get about 100% of people who say they support President Trump because it's right in the question. So it seems like a dumb thing to feature, although maybe it was possible that I didn't see the clip, but it's possible that Harry Enton was featuring it because, hey, here's the dumbest thing I ever saw. What I can't believe is that a pollster would conduct such a poll and then share the results. I don't know why. I don't know how this thing got on the air. But anyway, Trump interpreted it as they asked people whether they supported me. Out of the whole country, 100% said yes. Even though we know that specifically on the question of the war, at least, even among self-described MAGA supporters. You have people saying, I'm not MAGA anymore. I'm quitting MAGA over the war. We've seen a number of different people do it. We've made mention of the fact that Oath Keepers founder, what's the guy's name again? I forgot already, but I'll click on the thing. Stewart, what? I'm going to have to click on the story. Stewart Rhodes, that's right. Stewart Rhodes now says, Oath Keeper founder abandons MAGA after Iran war. We're not after the Iran war yet. We're right in the middle of it. President Trump is losing his biggest fans with his decision to strike Iran. The founder of the far-right Oath Keeper said on Monday he's no longer a part of the MAGA movement because of President Trump's war in Iran. While guest hosting for conspiracy theorist Alex Jones's show, great, Stewart Rhodes lamented, quote, the obvious role of the influencers of Zionism. This is a new trend, by the way. I mean, it's an old trend, but yet a new trend we'll mention in a second. But the obvious role of the influence of Zionism in our government, of the Israeli people, intelligence services, Mossad, and others in our government. The good news is that it's cracking up. The bad news is they're using weird accusations that lead to sort of a generalized anti-Semitism to do it. But, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, some of the weirdest people out there seem most susceptible to it, but they seem to be riding a wave of this. And they're looking to, I think, create some sort of, I'm fairly sure, false intersectionality with Palestinian and pro-Palestinian protesters of the war. I don't think it's likely that Stewart Rhodes, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, and others are particularly going to find themselves particularly supportive of the actual Middle Eastern Arabic people behind this. But they do find it a fun excuse to jump on the frightening people with references to Zionism. And I mean frightening people of all sorts, frightening anti-Zionists into believing that all Jewish people worldwide ought to be held responsible for the war or Israel's actions, and frightening most Jewish people worldwide that they will somehow be blamed for all of this wherever they live or however they actually feel. But anyway, Stewart Rhodes back in action. And by the way, pictured here with from an old Washington Post Getty Images picture of him from when, I'm not sure. There are. February 28th, 2001. And I remind you that Stewart Rhodes, one, wears an eye patch, and he wears an eye patch because he accidentally shot himself in the eye because he's such a huge gun enthusiast and he had a big gun fail. And, for whatever, I don't know, I was going to say, for whatever his line of work is supposed to be, I imagine the eye patch actually kind of works for him and gives him this cachet. But I noticed that he is also wearing glasses, and I was just sort of wondering about that. So I guess it's his left eye is he's wearing the eye patch. Do you think he pays at Lens Crafters or whatever to have that second lens made or as a corrective lens, or just pay for one? Because they're expensive, and I imagine you can cut the cost of your glasses if you just say, put the plastic display lens in the left eye, it doesn't matter, and give me a corrective lens in the right eye. On the other hand, this is the guy, I know this is out of fashion, but you know how these guys are. They're weird and anachronistic, and they like to, they love the eye patch thing because it gives me that swashbuckling effect. But if you're going to be like a purposefully evil guy, I'm sure he doesn't, well, maybe he does think he's evil or whatever. But here's a guy with a real excuse for wearing a monocle, I thought. And that's very out of fashion. But, you could get away with that, right? It's not that I'm, making some kind of weird fashion statement. It's that I only have one eye. I'm going to wear a monocle, although I don't know how expensive it is to get monocles made. Anyway, the point is that he's back and activating this. And I saw a great comment on what Senator Kennedy reminds us is actually pronounced Blooski, all right, from Skip Bitter, Dr. the Frog, skipbitter at .blooski.social, who made this call here and seeing the article about Stewart Rhodes. Can't wait for, because we have to remind you, Stewart Rhodes is one of also the few people who was actually convicted of sedition itself, the actual crime of sedition, post January 6th, but has since been pardoned by Trump. Now, from the safety of home rather than the confines of a prison cell, he dissents from the Iran war and breaks with MAGA. And Dr. the Frog tells us, I can't wait for Trump to start issuing unpardons. What? That's not a thing? Well, neither is putting yourself on the money. So, yeah, I guess he can pretty much do anything. I can pardon state crimes. He's still striving mightily to pardon or pressure someone else to pardon Tina Peters in Colorado. That's, by the way, a story we have to check back in with at some point. And I'll make a note to myself to do it. But, yeah, I don't think we've discussed putting himself on the money, right? Everyone knows what we're talking about? I'm sure that it has circulated and probably made its way to you by now. Trump is pushing the Treasury to strike coins, to mint coins with his picture on them, his face. And in fact, one of them, two medallions, like for collector's items for the mint to sell, and one a $1 coin that he wants to actually put in circulation. And it's bizarre because, we don't do that in this country with people who are alive because, it goes back to, it's a European or foreign monarchical, I guess, tradition to mint coins with the new monarch's face on it, like as soon as the reign begins. But it's the sort of thing that you only do in monarchies. You don't put the current head of state on the coins in the United States because we sort of explicitly reject that model, and then it's become just tradition, and then maybe even law. I don't know, but it's not something that's done in this country. But even if it was law, to hell with that. We're going to do it anyway, and I'm going to do it 3 times. I'm not really certain what's motivating that. The commemorative medallions he's talking about actually making like medallion size, 3 inches across, and it has this bizarro picture of him, the sketches of him, standing at presumably the Resolute desk with his fists on the desk and leaning in and glowering over you. Although it does also look like, people have noted, it looks more like he's gripping a walker that is invisible, or, that he's standing up because he's, and is unsure exactly what that gastric pressure is that he's feeling, and should he let it go or not. It's not a great photo. And then, by the way, the flip side of that medallion looks to be like they have the familiar bald eagle, American bald eagle, on the reverse, though instead of in the talons, traditionally the depiction has been one with arrows and one with an olive branch, so war and peace alike. And but he's dropped all of that and is either he's sort of perched on, but then also he's flapping the wings like he's going to take off with it. He's holding maybe the Liberty Bell. It's what's the wooden part of the thing that would attach it to the bell tower mechanisms. I don't know what the name is of the cross piece that goes with it, and presumably it's the Liberty Bell. Just no other sort of bell of that shape and design makes any particular sense to be on the coin, but there you have it. I don't know. So he's putting himself on the money and depicting himself that way. By the way, I should also add, just for New Jersey Politico type interest, somewhere along the line, I'll have to search it out. I noticed that they got the comment of there's an advisory committee and on coinage, basically, and it doesn't have like statutory authority, but it advises the mint, I guess, and the Treasury on design. Let's see, can I get to the article itself? All right, and this will show you the picture of the the coin here too. Phil Lewis was sending this around 3 days ago. Trump's hand-picked arts panel unanimously approved a commemorative gold coin, of course gold, featuring his image to mark America's 250th anniversary. USA Today was reporting on it as Carissa Waddick. So to give you the New Jersey angle, it'll take a minute or two to get down there. But design approved for U.S. Mint's 24-karat gold Trump coin, despite objections. I really don't know how well a 3-inch wide, 3-inch diameter, 24-karat gold coin is going to work. I imagine they might do a 24-karat gold leaf over a core of something else. I don't know how you make it may not have to be an affordable coin, but like a 3-inch diameter, 24-karat, if it was solid 24-karat gold would like start to, droop in your hands, I would imagine. It's very soft and, low melting point. And I think basically like body temperature might, warp this thing. Anyway, they're not talking about that so much as the design. The design would be for a gold commemorative coin. A separate $1 coin featuring President Trump has attracted even more pushback, they report. And let's see. I guess what is of interest here is that there's the reference to this commemorative or this coinage commission of some kind. Where is the first reference of that so that we can talk about the name of the commission here? I don't know. The U.S. Department of Treasury has taken a big step forward in its plan for a 24-karat gold commemorative coin. The Commission on Fine Arts, which has a part in this, an advisory board whose members were handpicked by Trump, approved the general design on March 19th for this commemorative gold coin, emblazoned with the president's image. Separately, the Treasury has plans, it says, to issue a $1 Trump coin that the Fine Arts Commission approved in January, despite protests from Democrats and coin enthusiasts. They, of course, have coin enthusiasms, who say the move shatters longstanding norms. The commemorative coin features a picture taken by chief White House photographer of Trump leaning over the Resolute desk. That answers that question. A photo on display in the Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery. The U.S. Mint did not respond to a request for comment about how much the coins will cost, though they imagine others on the agency website say the other coins that they issue sell for thousands of dollars. So, I guess that could happen here. Some more commentary on the image. The coin will have a denomination, though it has not yet been chosen, Sullivan said. Commissioners recommended small changes, including adding wood grain to the Resolute desk, because right now it just looks like he's on the set of Sesame Street, that wall that Kermit the Frog sits on. And that they would make it about 3 inches diameter, the largest coin the agency can create. And that was the direction, by the way, to them. Don't sell out. The larger, the better. That was from James McCreary, vice chair of the commission and the initial architect for Trump's proposed White House ballroom project, in case you were wondering what happened to that guy. Coin is expected to join a slate of special edition currencies and metals the Treasury is releasing for the semi-quincentennial year, including the separate $1 Trump coin that the Fine Arts Commission approved in January. But neither the $1 coin nor the gold coin have received approval from the Citizens Coinage Advisory Council. Hold on, I told you I was getting around to New Jersey. And it will make sense to about 99% of New Jersey, but some small percentage will understand this. This is a nonpartisan group created by Congress to advise the Treasury on coin design. That committee declined to review both coins and argued that depicting a sitting president on currency runs counter to the country's founding principles. By the way, if you ask Trump about that, he will tell you, that's why we chose the picture of me standing at the Resolute desk. I'm not sitting. Aha. Answer me that, Sherlock Holmes. Now, the chair of the advisory council, described the two proposals as abhorrent to the Declaration of Independence and said that it was a huge irony to celebrate the country's break from the British monarchy with coins of a president. That is very true. If you issue a coin with a portrait of a sitting president, even if he's not actually sitting down in a portrait, it will send a message that the sitting president is a king. I know, and he keeps objecting to the sitting. Now, as it turns out, I'll give you the finally get around to the point of this thing. The chair of this committee is Donald Scarinci, who, most of you probably won't recognize his name at all. But Donald Scarinci, if you're wondering how you end up on this thing, you get appointed to this commission. I believe the Senate majority and minority leaders get to make appointments to this commission, and maybe some House minority and majority side as well. Scarinci, a longtime friend, lifelong friend of Bob Menendez. So with some gold coinage involved, it's a little ironic. Hi, everybody. It's me, David, still your host for the Kagro in the Morning Show after all these years. Thank you for all your continuing support for the show. And if you're listening regularly and still thinking about getting on board as a supporter, well, the time is now. Patreon.com is the easiest way to make recurring subscription-style payments every month, all year round, to keep us going. patreon.com/KagroX brings you to our page where you can sign up with your monthly support. And hey, have you seen our clever new subscription tiers? It's easier than ever to sign up for, say, one crisp dollar bill for every information-packed 2-hour show. If you're the plan ahead type, there's even a year-long subscription program that saves you 15% on the cover price. Or it would if there was a cover price, or even a cover, for that matter. patreon.com/KAGROX. Thanks again for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. There's a little bit more in this, now somewhat interesting USA Today article about coinage. I'll just tell you the rest of it. But yeah, Donald Scarinci, a good friend of Bob Menendez, now, of course, not in the Senate. But I assume that his first appointment to this, I think I read somewhere elsewhere, I went and checked up on it, that Scarinci is in his, second term on this, is it committee, whatever it was, having been renominated by Chuck Schumer, who I'm sure made the nomination the first time, but probably the first time at the request of Bob Menendez. And now, we'll just let the guy wants to continue. I don't have anybody else to add to this list. Sure, whatever. I don't think there was any particular favor to Menendez or anything. It was probably more like, well, Scarinci seems like a decent guy, and I may or may not remember even how I got his name the first time. So anyway, no reason to throw him off the committee or anything. But just thought that was an interesting connection. And the gold being involved was just made it that much funnier. However, there's some other interesting information. George Washington, apparently, originally refused to have his image printed on currency during his lifetime, believing it was monarchical. Only one American president has actually had his likeness printed on currency while he was living. That was Calvin Coolidge, as it turns out. Why? He was featured alongside Washington, who was very much dead at the time, on a controversial 1926 $half for the nation's 150th anniversary. So last time they considered doing this 100 years ago. And the coin wasn't popular, and most pieces were melted by the mint. And, whatever. It wasn't a good outcome. If created, the Trump coins will join a growing list of buildings and items fashioned with the president's name and image, including national park passes. Unfortunately, I have one of those. Banners outside government buildings, which you're seeing all over the place in D.C. now, allegedly. And the recently renamed Trump Kennedy Center for the Arts, which is also going to close for 2 years. Oh, and news we didn't get to the other day. Rick Grenell, I guess, resigning as president of the Trump Kennedy Center or whatever they're calling it now. And good riddance to that, but the place is going to be closed, so I guess you just don't need the guy anyway. Fine. Just pointing that out since we didn't get to it earlier. Are the coins legal? There's a nice picture here of the other, is this the $1 coin that they have in offer? More normal coin-wise, just in terms of the portrait they've chosen for him, a side bust type portrayal here, but it is Trump, so yuck and gross. Anyway, are the coins legal? Unlike that $1 coin, which will circulate as currency, they say, but he may taco, who knows. The gold coin is designed purely as a collectible. A 1935 law prohibits gold currency from being used for commerce in the United States. Because it won't circulate, the gold coin also faces less legal pushback than the $1 coin does. Congress must authorize creation of new currency, but because the commemorative coins are gold, the agency doesn't need approval, said Scarinci, who has served on the Coinage Advisory Council since 2005. Why is he there? Bob Menendez, but never mind. No reason to connect the two of them now. The Treasury has argued that its authority for the $1 coin comes from a 2020 law allowing the pressing of celebratory 250th anniversary pieces. But Democratic lawmakers, led by Senator Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, requested earlier this year that the agency cease creation of the $1 Trump coin. They say it's illegal. At issue, they say, is past legislation, including an 1886 act, long-standing tradition, apparently, requiring that only the portrait of a deceased individual appear on currency and securities. And there's still time to comply, but we have to wait and see. The Mint did not immediately respond to requests for comment about the status of the $1 coin. Masto's office said the Treasury appears intent on continuing in the project. The White House's decision to trudge forward with a gold coin featuring President Trump is embarrassing and goes against our country's foundational values, the senator said in a statement. All true. And there you go. Now you're up to speed on the coinage issue. What else do I have to share with you? Well, let's see. What other notes today? Oh, you know what? Let me double back on something I alluded to with the collected and digested thoughts of from Talking Points memo. Well, can I open this thing up here? Got to get the pop-up out of the way. Sarah Posner writing there about the weird phenomenon that I was discussing with you the other day about splits in MAGA and splits from Trump over the Iran war, but then this weird undertone, maybe it's an overtone, that it's taking on, that sort of gently pushing this in the direction of overt anti-Semitism. Maybe it's not that gentle, but this one begins by putting side by side Candace Owens and Joe Kent, who, as you know, resigned from whatever that counterterrorism center was, however it was named, last week. And of course, bizarre moment in which Trump, who initially appointed him to the thing, saying, oh, he's wonderful, he's so tough on terrorism, it's a perfect choice. And then when he resigns over differences with Iran, I never liked him anyway, he was soft on terrorism, he's incompetent, I'm not sure how he got there, right? Par for the course with Trump, of course. What Joe Kent and Candace Owens are really up to in their critiques of the Iran war, I would like to know what people are really up to. Sarah Posner proposes that she knows, and I believe her. The anti-Semitic Catholic right is trying to position itself as a righteous opponent of America's alliance with Israel, and now the war in Iran. Interesting. At the Catholic Prayer for America Gala in Washington Thursday night, I guess that would be last week, because this is dated the 20th, the far-right group Catholics for... What? Catholics for Catholics? Really? CFC, that I can believe. That's sure. Why not? That could certainly be the acronym. Catholics for Catholics. That seems redundant. Although, you know, I guess I can't argue with their mission. Are we sure about that? Catholic, that's what it says. Well, anyway, on Thursday night, somebody under some name celebrated Joe Kent, the recently departed director for the National Counterterrorism Center, who quit over opposition to the war in Iran. Kent has a long history of proximity to white supremacists and neo-Nazis. That was the story I was gonna read you last week, but just only had to hint at instead. But this will wrap it all up, I think. And his resignation letter paired his criticism of Trump's war with anti-Semitic tropes. Although CFC had announced Kent would be interviewed on stage by Candace Owens, the far-right podcaster and influencer, his actual 5-minute appearance at the Black Tie Affair, which C-SPAN interrupted its regular programming to broadcast, by the way, maybe a bad idea, turned out to be rather anodyne. Kent briefly repeated his anti-Iran war views when pressed by CFC President John Yep. Does CFC really stand for Catholics for Catholics? Yep, it's spelled just like that. Kent added a religious flourish. Having faith, I was able to hear God's voice. I was able to hear that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, and it was my time to actually take action, which made taking the action incredibly easy, and actually made me feel very liberated and like I'm in the right spot, which is a weird way of saying I left that spot, but okay. Catholics for Catholics, there it is again, describes its mission. I'm going to just click on that, make sure that that's really, they really is called Catholics for Catholics. Well, congratulations to them, I guess. Catholics for Catholics describes its mission as being for Catholics, I guess, as, quote, inspiring a new wave of Catholicism and love of country. We are restoring what it means to say I'm Catholic in the public square. No, not really. I mean, I guess they might think they're doing that, but then the name doesn't do it by itself. Anyway, we are changing the nation and shaping a more holy and moral future for America. Whether or not Catholics for America, I don't know. Anyway, as the investigative journalist Catherine Joyce has documented, the group regularly celebrates the conversion of new, typically very online, right-wing Catholics into the fold. 2 years ago, they celebrated Owens' conversion, which coincided with her firing from right-wing podcaster Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire over her anti-Semitism. Along with Catholics for Catholics, mainly on the online right, many on the online right rallied behind Owens after her departure from Shapiro's organization, praising or sanitizing her anti-Semitism. After Kent announced he was leaving the Trump administration on Tuesday, Owens immediately seized on it for her own purposes, as she does with just about anything. Within an hour of Kent posting his resignation letter on Twitter, Owens, quote, tweeted it, calling him an American hero, patriot, and veteran. She disparaged Trump as, quote, a shameful president, adding, quote, may American troops take his lead and look into conscientious objection to Bibi's red heifer war. Goyim, stand down. Oh, my. The MAGA right has appropriated the term Goyim, non-Jews, that is to say, to signal to each other over their own claimed victimization by nefarious, conniving Jews, you see. Owens is trying to convince her followers that Americans have been manipulated into Bibi's red heifer war to rebuild the third temple in Jerusalem. That's a big, and you know, that's a great project. We could make it so beautiful. I would think all gold, columns everywhere. We're going to change the columns. Oh, by the way, that's a story, too. I did note, for the record, we'll just note in passing, Trump, as part of his redesign projects for federal buildings in general, would like to replace the columns that are there, the very federal-style columns, and are they ionic columns? If you studied the architecture ever, or, it's sort of a basic thing that, like apparently Architecture 101 or, the different kinds of columns, different styles with what do you call them up at the top? Finials? Not really finials, but the base and top of the columns have very different styles. He wants the much more ornate, I don't know. I can't recall which style it was, but I did put it aside. But he wants one that has lots more stuff plus gold at the top. So, very Trumpy. Anyway, that's not what's happening here. Owens is trying to convince her followers that Americans have been manipulated into Bibi's red heifer war to rebuild the third temple in Jerusalem. The next day, Catholics for Catholics announced she would be interviewing Kent at their gala. Although she does not make an appearance in the C-SPAN video, Owens has placed her support for Kent's decision to resign over the Iran war front and center in her ugly, relentless battle to elevate the anti-Semitic Catholic right as righteous opponents of America's alliance with Israel. and now the war in Iran. In doing this, Owens, who has a long history of anti-Semitic remarks, is trying to instigate a confrontation and maybe even a reckoning with one of the Republican Party's most durable constituencies, white evangelicals. Many of them, including Trump's ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, his top religious advisor, Paula White, and White House Speaker Mike Johnson, are Christian Zionists, led most prominently by John Hagee. The Christian Zionists support Israel's right-wing government more than most American Jews do and reject any criticism of it as anti-Semitic. They claim to, quote, love Israel and the Jews because that's what the Bible tells them to do. But their view of biblical prophecy is that when Jesus comes back, an event that could be triggered by a conflagration in Iran, by the way, Jews will either convert to Christianity or perish. Oh no. We are witnessing a showdown between anti-Semites and philo-Semites. With their increasingly public battle against Christian Zionists, Owens and her very online allies are also trying to strike a dagger into the heart of the very alliance that made the modern Christian right possible. An army of co-belligerents, evangelicals and Catholics united in a culture war against secularism, abortion, and LGBTQ rights. Owens and her followers are trying to blow up that alliance, including by trying to claim Charlie Kirk, seen by Trump at least as a young potential successor to evangelicalism's old guard, as one of their own. In the wake of Kirk's assassination, Owens has been pressing a conspiracy theory that his murder was an inside job by the organization he co-founded, Turning Point USA, and has even accused his widow Erica of being in on it. This week, Kent added more fuel to the Kirk conspiracy fire, telling Tucker Carlson on his podcast Wednesday that Kirk had seen him in the White House last summer and begged him to stop Trump from going to war with Iran. So, when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us not to go to war with Iran and at least rethink our relationship with Israel, and he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask questions. It's a data point, Kent told Carlson, a data point we need to look into. Kent is also reportedly under FBI investigation for pre-resignation leaks, by the way. Owens' embrace of Kent marked the second time in as many months that she loudly rose to the defense of an ally sidelined by the Trump administration. In February, an Owens protege, former beauty queen Carrie Prejean Baller, who received a Catholic Champion Award at Thursday's CFC Gala, brought the far-right Catholic anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism to a meeting of Trump's White House Religious Liberty Commission, which was slated to address anti-Semitism, of all things. The Trump administration has its own problematic definition of anti-Semitism, deeming any anti-Israel or pro-Palestinian speech to be anti-Semitic, a framing that Owens and her allies have exploited to their own advantage. I mean, it's a foolish and objectively idiotic definition of it, so who's going to take advantage of it most often? Foolish and idiotic people. Then look what happened. Trump had nominated Prejean Bowler, who converted to Catholicism last year, to the commission along with evangelicals and more conventionally conservative Catholics like Ryan Anderson, a former Heritage Foundation staffer who is now president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center, and Cardinal Timothy Dolan, the former Archbishop of New York and a past president of the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. Prejean Bowler made a spectacle at the meeting, including engaging in confrontations with the commission's evangelical members over their Christian Zionism, claiming that Zionism violated her religious freedom as a Catholic, and putting on a just asking questions performance about whether she would be deprived of her religious freedom and right to quote sections of the New Testament about the Jews killing Jesus. On her podcast, applauding Prejean Bowler, Owens said that she herself once believed that there should be a Jewish state when I was under the Zionist demonic spell, she says. She then went on to complain about being subjected to a brainwashing program in public school about Holocaust, Holocaust, Holocaust. About Prejean Bowler, Owens declared, "A star is born." On cue, Pregene Bowler didn't go quietly when the commission chair, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, removed her from the body. In an interview with The Atlantic, Pregene Bowler blamed Patrick and the televangelist Paula White, Trump's longtime friend and head of his White House faith office, for her dismissal, calling White an absolute evangelical demon. Everybody's a demon these days. The scholar of Catholicism, Matthew Kressler, speaking recently on my podcast, Sarah Posner's, likened Owens to Father Charles Coughlin, who promoted anti-Semitism and Nazism on his radio show in the 1930s. Coughlin opposed the U.S. entry into World War II, claiming that the war was a plan by Jews for their own benefit. They were making out like bandits, those Jews in World War II, and that they had conspired to involve the United States. Of Pregene Bowler's attempt to revive the anti-Semitic trope that the Jews killed Jesus, Kressler said, the church has been spending the past 60 years trying to dismantle the idea that Jews were responsible for Christ's death. While the online Catholic right is a relatively new phenomenon and unfamiliar to many Catholics raised in the church, Hagee's brand of evangelicalism is deeply embedded in the lives of evangelicals whose religious communities and belief systems are profoundly shaped by what they think is the role of Israel in fulfilling biblical prophecies about Christ's ultimate return. White evangelicals are much more monolithically Republican than are white Catholics. What's more, Republicans are much more broadly for Trump's war in Iran than Democrats or independents. A YouGov poll this week found more than 80% of Republicans approve of Trump's handling of it, and he faces minimal pushback from congressional Republicans. Owens, from her podcast Booth and X account, is trying to upend decades of how Republicans view the United States and its relationship to Israel and the Middle East. She may be aiming for a horseshoe theory of politics where she draws in the anti-Israel left, but for her to succeed at that, they'd have to embrace her militant fringe Catholicism, or ignore it, I suppose. In the meantime, she's alarmingly succeeding at resuscitating the ugliest forms of anti-Semitism. So, just a note of caution that people have an eye on this situation, and it appears to be playing out more or less as they have predicted. So, wow, it's a little bit weird. Well, let me also throw this one out there. This is just, I don't know if this is among the most important pieces of news, but just to sort of remind you of where we are in this country and what our president is doing and whether or not he ought to be leading us in this disastrous war. Another complete lunatic nominated by Trump to high federal office. The new head of FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, which I guess the only people interested in talking about this particular aspect of this guy's career is the Mirror, which I thought was a UK tabloid, but this is the Mirror US, so the US version of the UK tabloid. FEMA disaster chief claims he is able to teleport. Oh, that's good news. I landed in a ditch by a Baptist church. That's not a very good teleportation, but I mean, any teleportation would be pretty cool, I would think. But where do you hear where else he has teleported to? Greg Phillips, a conservative activist who spread voter fraud conspiracies, was appointed to lead the federal government's storm disaster response, which is a disaster in its own right. I think we may have mentioned his nomination yesterday, but we didn't get around to the part where he says, oh, I can teleport. At least I don't think we did. Phelan Stempler is the name of the reporter for the Mirror who put this piece together. Resurfaced comments made by Greg Phillips, the head of FEMA's Office of Response and Recovery. I guess not the actual head of FEMA, but at any rate, have sparked concern about the new leader's competency and mental state. Phillips, a conservative activist who spread voter fraud conspiracies, was appointed to lead the federal government's storm disaster response under the Department of Homeland Security in December. Previously, he oddly claimed, that's a way of putting it, but he oddly claimed that he involuntarily teleported to a Waffle House in Georgia. Did we not get to this? Okay, I don't know. Somehow, I've now felt like I've talked about this all weekend, so I'm not certain what we did on the air and what I just discussed online or here at home, but oh wow. So ditches outside of Baptist temples, Baptist churches, and also Waffle Houses, which is handy, I guess, if you're hungry. Anyway, but apparently not only did he teleport to a Waffle House, he teleported to a Waffle House in Georgia that was 50 miles away. Okay. Now I don't know whether again, I'm just not sure whether we mentioned this on Friday, but if not, I think you need to know that. So that maybe someone will ask him about this at his confirmation hearings, if there are any. I just thought that was a new and interesting aspect of the many things that we may or may not be experiencing as reality here under the Trump administration. You could split hairs about whether or not the Strait of Hormuz is open or not, depending on who you're asking. But I think probably I can't imagine a great deal of support for the idea that, yeah, sure, people can teleport anywhere, and why not between Waffle Houses while you're at it. Anyway, in case that didn't make the record last week, I wanted to make sure that it did this week. Okay, let's see. Other things that we ought to try and include on the record that we might not have gotten to last week. We mentioned, I think, at least in passing, the headlines about DHS contractors saying that they were shaken down by Corey Lewandowski while he was still serving as undersecretary, so to speak. And that was of some interest. Let's see, we got to that. Did we mention? I think so, but just in case we didn't. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Did we make mention? I'll have to check my own records and podcasts about whether or not we made mention of Paolo Zampoli last week. Let me see if I can see the date line of the story, which was the 20th on Friday. Was it early enough for us to have included in Friday's show, or did it come out afterwards? Megan Toohey, Sean McCreesh, and Hamid Aliaziz reporting for the New York Times. The headline being, Trump friend, that's Paolo Zampoli, asked ICE to detain the mother of his child. This would be the second story that I know of alongside one of the relatives of Caroline Levitt, right, who have prevailed upon the powers that be, Donald Trump. They got a hold of his ear, I guess, and asked for ICE to interfere in legal cases that they or relatives had over custody battles, and thought that they might be able to win the custody battle themselves or for their friends or family if the parent with whom they were fighting in court was arrested by ICE. In this case, Paolo Zampoli, former modeling agent and a longtime Trump ally, was in a custody battle over his son. An ICE official agreed to help. The story basically is that the ex-girlfriend, Brazilian ex-girlfriend, who was the mother of his son, and has since left him, remarried, and I guess was back in the United States and visiting, and picked up by ICE and was set for, I guess, release on bail. And Zampoli prevailed on Trump to have ICE scoop her up rather than release her from prison, release her from jail, and use that against her in the custody battle. An interesting note along the way in this article is that the woman, a model, whose name here is Amanda Ungaro, and I think she is, she's Brazilian, I guess originally arrived in the United States having been essentially imported for Mr. Zampoli, I mean his modeling agency, at the age of 17, and actually flown into the country on Jeffrey Epstein's jet. Just in case you were wondering whether there was a connection there, of course there is, because of course there is. And of course, he insists that he did not start a romantic relationship with her until a full 2 years later, when she was 19 and he was 87 or whatever it is. It's a remarkable story in its own right. But as I mentioned, the second time that we've heard that people are putting ICE to work for them in their custody battles. Highly inappropriate, of course. And by the way, also an interesting sign of authoritarianism is you bend the rule and rule of law and the execution of legal authority to your will and use it as a weapon against others. Remember that one of their main accusations is that, oh no, it's really the Democrats and Joe Biden who are weaponizing law enforcement in this country. Anyway, Zampoli, by the way, years ago when we were reading through, that article about, we all knew about the trafficking and the way that Donald Trump used the ownership of teen beauty pageants and modeling agencies as a sort of legalizing cheat code for his perv creeping, getting himself backstage during the pageant, supplying his real estate condo sales parties with young models to mingle with the prospective buyers, et cetera, and of course dating them. And can you believe in 10 years I'll be dating your friend? All of that just a cheat code for getting yourself surrounded with beautiful young women, something he learned from Paolo Zampoli, John Casablancas, and of course his good friend Jeffrey Epstein. All four of them at some point owned their own modeling agencies for some weird reason, rather than just using one another's modeling agencies. But I'll leave that to your imagination.
Radio.com. You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
All right, and now it is time for you to be listening to the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Justice Putnam. And if my Microsoft Teams would have woken up faster, I would have that much more to tell you about what he's got in store for you. He's done all the work. He's done all the legwork putting the show together and the description. But Microsoft Teams does not want to let you know. Find out why next.